What's going on, everybody? We had a great interview with Yossi Gozlan today on the All Hoops podcast, but after we finished recording, two major trades happened, CJ McCollum and then that crazy Haliburton for Domantas Sabonis trade. We will talk about both of those trades during final thoughts. Now, let's get to the show. Welcome to a brand new episode of the All Hoops podcast. I'm your host, Steve Inman, joined as always by producer to the stars and co-host Chris Brito. We're just 2 days away from the NBA trade deadline and the rumors are beginning to heat up. Do we expect several big names to move? What will our Knicks do? Before we get to all that, Chris, my friend, how are you?
Hey, buddy, how's it going? Another week, another crazy trade deadline coming up. There's a few things that we are going to discuss with our new guest, but I'm going to let you kick that off.
Sounds good. Here we go. It's trade deadline week, so we're bringing in a heavy hitter, salary cap expert for hoopshype.com. It's Yossi Gozlan. Yossi, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good, Steve. How are you?
We're doing great. Thank you for joining us here on the All Hoops podcast. Obviously, huge week in the NBA. I'm hoping we're getting those big splashes. Do you really see a big move going on here, or do you think it's going to be more smaller moves?
I don't think it'll be as big as last year, but we'll probably get a couple. Probably the biggest from like Indiana, I think.
Obviously, the Ben Simmons watch is on day 600 or so right now. That's the way it feels, at least. Do you see this finally getting resolved, or do you see, this dragging on to the offseason?
I think seems like there's a lot of posturing right now on both sides. I think clearly both have their leverage points. And I did write something about how I think that Brooklyn probably has more leverage just because Ben Simmons isn't playing. And I could see there being some pressure in the organization for the Sixers to just do what it takes to get Harden now if he really is available. So I think it'll definitely get close, probably go up to the last minute. If I had to bet on it though, like under my head, probably not, because the Nets really don't need to do this right now. They could wait until the offseason. Like the main reason to do this is if they can get like a haul right now, which would include like maxi picks. And I don't know if the Sixers want to do that. So if they're not getting like some extra good stuff, no need for the Nets to do it. Like there will be a Simmons based package in the offseason for sure.
And I think a lot of the hesitation toward doing the move is to include Seth Curry or not, right? He's been such an integral part of the Sixers, and the Nets could use some shooters, with Harris still out. So in an ideal world, based on like what you've seen around the league, where do you think Ben Simmons would fit best?
I do think the Brooklyn fit is really good. I think, you really got to tailor make a team for Ben Simmons. And I think they can really make it work in Brooklyn, especially if they can recoup some of their picks in a James Harden trade that they originally gave up to get for him. And maybe they can get some more shooters around him. I like the idea that he could be their center. It would be a front court of him and KD, and then you just put guards and another wing, like, Joe Harris, Kyrie, and just get another two later. I really like that fit.
And then we'll see Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons in the Eastern Conference Finals.
That would be fun just to see, like, if Ben even will show up or how that's gonna work, man. Like, I would probably definitely favor Philly just because I could really get in his head.
That first game, Ben Simmons in Philly, is must-see TV. Even just the boos to start is going to be something we haven't heard in a long time. But I'm really curious from both of your guys' perspective, if James Harden is actually available, right? Why is this one team being talked about? Like, why can't they trade him to the Kings or the Timberwolves or one of these? I know he's not going to resign there. That's the answer. But why is it they're only talking to one team right now, it seems like?
Because when a player like James Harden wants to go somewhere, he gets his way. That's just how the NBA works.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Even if he had like a lot of years left on his deal, he would still get where he wants to go.
I mean, he leveraged his way out of Houston to get to his desired location in Brooklyn. And it just always, there has always been buzz in two places for Harden. It's always been either Brooklyn or Philly because of the Morey connection, obviously. So, I mean, even if I'm the Sixers and I don't do any deal, it's going to suck because, you're wasting a great year out of Embiid. But, you wait for Harden in the offseason, and this team is like going to be stacked and in the NBA Finals contender right away. So
I think so. Like, especially this year and probably next year after that, we'll see. But like, I really think right now, I think Miami is the favorite to make it out the East. If the Sixers get Harden with the way Embiid's playing, they're probably right there.
I mean, the Nets just have to get more than Ben Simmons. I get the picks, but it's like they're going for a championship now. Like they have to get Seth Curry or Maxey. Like this idea that they're just going to basically swap those two guys and then give up a first round pick or so would be like the greatest heist Daryl Morey's had in a long time.
So, I mean, I think the way Brooklyn might be looking at this is kind of setting up for next year. Not so much that they're going to just give up this year. No point. They don't even have their pick. But more so that you're trying to get extra stuff with Simmons. And maybe if it's picks, some of their young players, just you need that extra stuff so you can make more moves later. And what I was writing about when I was writing about the whole, like if a trade happens, one of the things I realized is that if they do a trade where Brooklyn mainly, like they just take back Simmons and then like just one other cheap player like Maxey, they'll save a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that could motivate them to actually use some of these trade exceptions they have to get some more pieces. And they'll have some extra assets potentially that they could move if they get some picks, for example. So, it's going to be hard to, do a Harden Simmons trade and do all that extra stuff in the same trade deadline. It's possible, but more realistically, I think it's more so that like if you're going to trade Harden mid-season, you're probably more going to have I think you'll have a more set up team going in the next season, most likely.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm just curious, where does Kyrie Irving fit into those plans, right? I mean, he's got the player option. It seems like he's probably going to decline that and hit free agency. If the vaccination situation is similar, why wouldn't he go somewhere else where he could be a full-time player again?
Who knows, man? I don't know. I don't think anyone can answer for him what he's thinking. Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, but it's just hard to build for next year when your max, salaried point guard may just not be around. It's just
do you guys have a team you root for?
We're both Knicks fans.
Knicks fans?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna get to them in a little bit, but let's move on. Washington Wizards. This is another team that I really am fascinated by because Bradley Beal, he's up for this Supermax. We all Chris and I have talked about it. We kind of believe if he's offered it, he's got to take it, and then they're going to be kind of mediocre forever. But is that the right way to go about this thing? Shouldn't the Wizards even explore trading Bradley Beal?
I think they should. It seems like they want to make it work with him and they want to keep him and they want to compete with him. I just don't really see the path to contention if they're going to pay Beal the max he's eligible for, and then they don't really have that like many. They have a couple picks to offer, and then they're young players. I mean, Avdia, Rui, Kisper. You got Kuzma, Dinwiddie, like those are your main player assets. I don't think that's getting you much. Like I'm sure they could get pretty close for Sabonis, for example, but I think there are probably better offers. I think the Kings and Pelicans, for example, could put in much better not much better, but like they could definitely top whatever Washington's like biggest offer can be. So, and then like, let's say they do that, or let's say maybe they talk to the Knicks and get Julius Randle, something like that. Like, I just don't, even with Sabonis, who's, two-time All-Star, he's really, really good. I just don't see how much better they're getting. Maybe they get out of the play-in, but that's it. That's basically that would, like, if they do that kind of trade, that's that's basically it. That's all their chips. And now they're kind of out of flexibility, assuming they re-sign Beal.
So
Personally, I would want to break it up. I think this, like, when they traded Westbrook, that was a great trade. They got a lot of flexibility. They got some good role players that I would have probably looked to start selling off too, see if you could get some picks for that. But it doesn't seem like they want to go that direction. So we'll see. Like, maybe they surprise me. I don't think they'll make any decision with Beal now, but hopefully they don't do anything that like hamstrings them too soon.
Yossi, I was listening to your most recent episode on the Hoops Hype, and I was surprised to hear that it seemed like you were a pretty big Spencer Dinwiddie advocate. And I thought your idea for him, like for a team like New York to go after him, was kind of shrewd there. But in terms of moving on, and let's just say for this example of like keeping Beal happy, what potential places can you see besides New York can someone like Dinwiddie go? Like it doesn't seem like that marriage is working out right now.
So I guess you could probably just forget about Cleveland now that they got LeVert, just because that, they don't really have, I don't know what they could trade to get him. There's Dallas. I just think he could be a pretty nice fit with Luka there, but that seems a little unlikely because they're going to have they've got some financial issues going forward. They got to figure out what to do with Brunson and Finney-Smith, and I think they're probably just going to be more comfortable with the Brunson. I said the Clippers. I thought the Clippers should have traded for him last year while he was hurt. Now he's healthy, but now I don't know. I don't even know if the Clippers would do that because they seem like they're going to go all in on this wing own. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they go into next year, they're fully healthy. They bring back Covington and Batum, and then they just literally go with an all-wing lineup, wow. And then Reggie Jackson, and then like barely even play their centers. I think they really want to go all in on that. So if that's how it is, and you don't really need Dinwiddie now. It's hard to say if there's like a perfect fit for him right now. Every team really it's pretty set at point guard, but I would say, I think the Knicks probably are the best fit, to be honest. And I feels like the Knicks, they might pivot to, I wouldn't be surprised if they pivot to getting off Fournier and Randall, because that's some long-term money. And I think they might want to get potentially having max cap space in 2023. But if you're going to have Randall and Fournier and then RJ Barrett's going to be due for his money, you're not really going to have cap space. But, you can, one trade I came up with that I don't really think is good for Washington, but just something I came up with. Randall and Fournier for Kuzma, Dinwiddie, and probably some other filler. Main thing is for Knicks is that they're getting off all that long-term money, but they also get I think, pretty solid point guard in Dinwiddie, and he's only guaranteed next season after that. He's only guaranteed for one more season, so if the Knicks need to get off that money for the cap space, they can do that and just see maybe something could work there. I guess right now, the Knicks might be the best fit out of every other team right now, in my opinion.
I like that idea too, because I think I've said this on almost every single podcast episode we've had, that one of the biggest issues that Knicks have is that they haven't had a real point guard since forever. I want to say since Ray Felton. And so I hope that it's either addressed in this trade deadline or I mean, we thought Kemba was going to be that guy. Clearly it hasn't worked out. But who knows what's in the cards.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Knicks for a second. The Knicks have a lot of issues. They're not as sharp defensively as they were last year. We see Julius Randle in viral videos arguing with an assistant at the Laker game the other day. Based on what you've seen, based on like what is possible, what do you see any feasible moves the Knicks can make or anything of the sort?
Specifically regarding Randall?
Not necessarily Randall, just team wise, anything
Okay.
that pops out for you.
I mean, I would be I don't think they're going to be able to move Randall this season, and they're probably going to have a hard time moving him in general. That contract just has got to be scaring a lot of teams, and he's got a very big trade bonus that's going to like just shoot his salary even higher than it needs to be. So
talking about that. That's concerning.
Yeah, no one's really talking about that. So I just, if someone trades for Randall, it's probably because I just don't think Randall really has any positive trade value. I brought the Wizards as an example, where I could see them just trading some salary filler role players, like a combination of like Kuzma or Harrell, just stuff just to match the salaries. And that might be all it takes to get Randall right now, just based on his contract and his regression and some of with the stuff you just mentioned, with like the issues with the coaches and stuff. So, and then if you're the Knicks, do you want to just give up on, just take nothing back for him? I mean, that's a decision, but I just don't see any other team wanting to take his contract right now.
So we've been dreaming about De'Aaron Fox for Randall and CJ McCollum for Randall all day. You're telling us that's not realistic?
I mean, I don't like the De'Aaron contract either, but I guess I'd rather have De'Aaron on that contract than Randall on his, because I think there's still some more upside for Fox, where what happened with Randall last year may have just been some insane outlier.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then what was the other player just saying?
CJ McCollum.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see why Portland would want that money, especially after they just gave away Norman Powell to to have a little more flexibility going forward. Getting Randall in would just be like the complete opposite.
What is that percentage of the trade kicker? That's not a 15%, is it?
15, yeah.
Oh no.
A full 15.
And then
you would get it because
you have to include a sweetener with that one.
You only get you don't get the bonus if you're already making more than your max, and he's not close to the max. So he'll get the full 15.
So in that case, I wonder if the Knicks are better off trying to dump Fournier somehow in some other deal. I mean, his contract is not pretty either, obviously.
But
so I mean, I don't think that contract's that bad. I think if they want to dump him, I don't think it'd be that hard. Maybe they don't get off like the money completely scot-free, but you've got I think you've got some teams that might be interested in taking him for if I'm more skeptical that teams would be willing to give up just expiring contracts for Randall, but I think it's more likely for Fournier. And it'll get easier next, and especially if he's on the rock, it only get easier as time goes on. Maybe in the off season, it'll only have another year left after next season. I think that they should be able to get off of him if they want to.
I mean, Chris and I kind of, argue on this one, but I'm open to that because I just want to see young players play. And, we've fallen in love with Quickly and now Grimes and all these guys. And, Fournier seems to have big moments against Boston and nobody else, which is really weird. And I'd love to, give some more minutes to some younger players. They traded a first round pick for Cam Reddish and they don't have a spot to put him. So,
yeah. Let me tell you, I'm really excited to talk Knicks. I barely talk Knicks. Everyone wants to talk about all the stars. And I do actually think the Knicks are a pretty interesting situation. The Cam Reddish thing, I mean, it's still not a bad trade, even if it doesn't pan out. That pick you guys gave up might just be 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think just seeing how Atlanta just kind of gave up on him that early gotta be a little concerning, but we'll see. Still kind of early. Maybe the Knicks do stuff to make Tips play him, so we will see. Let me ask you guys this.
I'll go ahead. Go ahead.
How much? So like I think RJ, he's been great this season. Like, he started hot, then kind of cooled down. Now he's starting to get hot again. He's looking really good. He's extension eligible this offseason.
Yeah.
What do you think he should get, and what do you think he ends up getting?
So, I mean, you are a cap expert, so you're going to tell us if this is wrong, but I've been looking around at 4 for 80.
Okay.
And you're kind of, it's
that's what you feel comfortable giving him.
That's what I feel comfortable giving him, especially the cap's going up $2 million, right? I don't know does he take that? This is, the Knicks haven't had a first round pick get a contract extension since Charlie Ward back in like 2004. So, there's some pressure to get this done. And he's a guy who wants to be here. And it's very rare for a player who seems to be ascending in his career to say, I want to be in New York. I mean, at least with the Knicks. And so, $20 million a year is probably what I'm comfortable with. If he continues doing this, I could see 4 for 90. And if he goes back to his streaks, I could see them not even getting a deal done.
So I agree with you that that's how much I would feel comfortable paying him. I think most likely he'll push for more than that. And I think he could get more than that. Like, I think if you look at what Memphis gave Jaren Jackson, they gave him 4,105. Just as an example, I think that's probably the baseline of what he's going to ask for. And then, maybe try to push for a little more than that. And that's also kind of similar to what Jaylen Brown got, which, again, also kind of Jaylen Brown was a little better in his first 3 years.
Yeah. But
not a totally unreasonable comparison that you can make in negotiations. So, I mean, I'll say this. I think I'd be comfortable, like, I'm more comfortable paying like around 20, I guess. If it gets to 25, I still think I'd be comfortable with that. Once it starts pushing for like max, okay, maybe we got to take it to free agency and test the market.
This is always, I mean, if he's tested free agency as a 22-year-old kid, I imagine he's going to get a max somewhere. So it's like, you're going to have to do it eventually. The question is, would he take some kind of discount to get the security now? And I don't know the answer to that. I think you're probably right. It's going to end up being a lot more than 4 for 80. Yeah, that's the hope. But the higher up you get, the harder it is to say this is a really good trade asset in a Donovan Mitchell trade in a couple of years or something like that. And not that I really want to trade him. Chris doesn't want to trade him. We both have our RJ Barrett jerseys, right? So we don't want to give him up. But at the same time, you're going to have to upgrade this roster somehow. And if he's making 25 million, 26 million a year, it gets a little harder to do that.
But I feel like with the Knicks, you gotta hope RJ just becomes, maybe not a star, but like at least an all-star. And
if he does that, you're comfortable paying him 26, 27, sure.
But I think they're doing a good job, like taking all these young players, like all the guys you just mentioned. They still have all their picks. They could trade for a star, but RJ is just like, it has to work. He has to get to and I think I would even say it's like a little more likely than not that he becomes like maybe not necessarily like a consistent all-star, but like positive enough that maybe they consistently get to the playoffs and maybe win a couple playoff series. I definitely think it's possible. And if you can get him at around 25 mil a year, I don't think that's too bad.
I always kind of thought of him as like Toronto DeMar DeRozan. Like that's the kind of player he could be. And that's a pretty good player. That's a guy
that's actually a really great team. I like that.
And he's a wing, but yeah, I think he's a better defender. He's not really as good of a jump shooter just yet, but we'll have to wait and see there.
Our buddy, our Nick buddy, he likes to say that RJ sort of has a Jimmy Butler trajectory.
I don't know if I see that one as much, but
I mean, I don't see it either, but I was wondering what Yossi thought about that.
It's interesting. You both put out DeMar and Jimmy Butler, two guys that were okay in the beginning, definitely overlooked, and then just late bloomers and became just really great players. I think that's very possible, and I'd be willing to roll the dice on that contract for RJ that he'll become that. It's funny because I have a Knicks fan friend here in LA and
Does he
he
drink a lot?
what?
Does he drink a lot?
Because we do.
No, but he was so happy with the Knicks last year.
Mm-hmm.
Or like heading into last season, I'm like, oh, the Knicks are just gonna like, just another year in the lottery, and like now it's kind of coming true. Like what was supposed to be last year is kind of happening now. And he was so happy with how the Knicks panned out in the season. And they had like, he loved Julius Randle so much. Like he probably would have married him if given the chance. Like that's how much he like in the city of New York loved Randle. Now, and he gave Randle the like benefit of the doubt, like literally up until maybe last week. Now he's kind of like, yeah.
I don't know what changed.
What was the final straw? Or is it the accumulation?
I think it's the accumulation. Just realize and like I would be like, hey man, like I don't know, this isn't looking too good. He's like, no, like it's gonna come back, and now he's finally like just. The straw finally broke for him.
So I have this other theory that I'm trying to test out. Is Fournier as bad as some Knicks fans think he is? Because if you listen to Steve, you'd think he's the worst player on the planet. But
Not the worst player on the planet. He's just not good.
Wait, hold on. But in January, he actually had one of the best 3-point percentages. So clearly, there's like he is getting better and more comfortable. What do you think?
I mean, I don't watch the Knicks enough to know that because and then like on Twitter or look at I do see a lot of inconsistency, and so I'm sure there's a lot of Knicks fans are getting hyperbolic when Evan Fournier will kill the Celtics one night and then just completely be okay or he's never been like the most consistent guy, but I guess is he. The big question is like, is he playing up to that contract?
I think
no.
I would say he's not quite, but he's also not that far off. Like especially given his position and what players at his position get paid. I don't think it's terrible, but maybe I think he's a little behind the value.
I think that's the best way to put it. Not terrible. And, when you're trying to upgrade your roster, the first way to do that is to get rid of the guys who are quote unquote not terrible.
Yeah.
And, he's averaging 14 points a game, 42% from the floor. That's his worst number since 2013 when he was a part-time, bench player in Denver. So yes, it could improve. He's had a better month, but at the same time, he doesn't really play defense. He doesn't pass the ball. He's averaging under 2 assists a game. That's, again, his lowest since part-time in Denver, 2013. So if you can find a way to get off of this 20 million, with 19 million, 20 million a year, I think you should do it.
Now, here's the other thing about Fournier. I think even at his salary, I think it'd be fine if he was a 6th man. And if you just look at his game, like he's really just like, he's a good scorer, but he's not particularly great at anything else. But if he was coming off the bench doing this stuff, even at that salary, I think the conversation would be completely different. Like he would be an awesome 6th man.
But just Tibbs will continue playing his starter, his vets, and he just it's not like they don't have a lot of options to replace Fournier in that lineup anyway. But even if they did, like he's not putting Quickly in there, he's not putting Grimes in there. He's gonna keep playing his vets.
Right, but so it might not be in New York, but maybe some other team steals him at the deadline. Like one team I like to look at are the Pelicans, just because they have a trade exception that can fit Fournier's money this year, like completely. And maybe so they could do that, and then maybe they also do a consolidation trade. Like there's like the CJ McCollum rumors. What if they do that and then have Fournier come off the bench? Like
Is that David Griffin's job?
No, I mean, no, I think like if that's what they're gonna do, I just really like the idea of Fournier coming off the bench there. Like that, he could really thrive in that situation.
I would love that. Let's just go rapid fire through a couple more teams before we wrap this up. The team that is always most fascinating to me is the West Coast Knicks, the Sacramento Kings, who one day it's Harrison Barnes is untouchable. He's part of our core. And then we're throwing him in every trade we can. Fox is untouchable. Now he's involved. They're trying to go for Ben Simmons. What is their plan here? Are they just open to anything?
That's what now it kind of went from a couple of weeks ago. It was like, yeah, I think like the Kings really want to make the play-in. They really want to end this playoff drought. They're going to be big buyers. And now it feels like now, yeah, just whatever's best, whatever they can do that is best, not necessarily to win now, but just in general, it doesn't seem like they're going to be these, like, I thought they were going to be the most aggressive buyers. Now it seems like the Pelicans will be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to expect from the Kings. I wouldn't support, like, they could easily maybe trade De'Aaron Fox for a bunch of picks, or maybe they instead trade a bunch of stuff for Ben Simmons to pair with De'Aaron Fox. Like, it could go either way. Who knows?
Do you see the Pacers completely tearing this down?
I think they'll do. I feel like they should do another move. This is just me, just like my opinion, like my speculation. I think there's like a solid chance, like a more than solid chance that they'll move Sabonis, just because I think they can get a haul for him, like maybe 2-3 first round picks, some young players. And that'll trade alone could set them up. Like they're already gonna have a good pick this year. They got that extra caps pick. They can get a couple extra picks over the next few years and maybe another good young player. There's not much else you really need to do as far as trades. I mean, yeah, you could trade Brogdon later. Yeah, I think they'll do one other move. And maybe not necessarily Sabonis. But I definitely think they're gonna do at least one other thing.
Yossi, so you mentioned, we talked about a lot of different teams and a lot of different scenarios, but what is your one bold prediction for this week and for the rest of the season in terms of maybe trades or anything that you predict happening?
I guess like I guess a bonus. I just feel like it makes too much sense. I feel like there's going to be offers that it's going to be very hard to pass up. And I don't think that's that bold, but I guess I feel a little stronger that they should move Sabonis if the offers are there than most.
So if you were betting your house mortgage, that would be it.
No, just because like me saying that's my boldest statement is like, the next boldest thing is like not even that less bold.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yossi, thank you so much for joining us here on the All Hoop Podcast. You can find Yossi as the co-host of the Hoops Hype Pod. Please check him out there. It's very good stuff. Is there anything else you're working on right now that you want everybody to know about?
I mean, I'm going to have a bunch of stuff come out this week. So my most recent thing, as I mentioned on this episode, I had my James Harden to Philadelphia, article of like, what if they do it now? What are the implications? Does it benefit each team? So that's my most recent thing, but I'll have a bunch of other stuff coming out. Gonna have a podcast with Mike on Hoops Hype tomorrow or Wednesday morning. And then you can just follow me on Twitter at Yossi Gozlan and find some good cap stuff happening, some good reactions. And yeah, hopefully, I really hope the Knicks can make some good moves, because
me too.
They've surprised me, like ever since the new front office took over. Was like I think they've done a good job staying competitive, but also still accumulating lots of assets. And hopefully, this year they might not be in the play now. So hopefully they adjust accordingly and just get ready for the next year.
Well, Yossi, thank you so much. I hope the Knicks do that too. The worst place to be, in my opinion, is no man's land between, just missing the play-in and not getting those high lottery picks, but we'll have to wait and see there.
Yeah, man. So yeah, hopefully we get some good action this week.
Yes,
absolutely. Guys.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, Chris, final thoughts time. Obviously, we had two major trades here in the NBA. The CJ McCollum going to New Orleans trade, and then the even crazier Sabonis for, Tyrese Haliburton. I did not think Tyrese Haliburton was in play, but here he is. Let's start with McCollum, the trade that happened earlier. How do you see this in terms of what the Blazers are doing, and then in terms of the Pelicans are all in going for this play-in?
Yeah, so I think it's a really cool move on behalf of the Pelicans, because it shows that, in a critical year where they have to sort of prove it to Zion that they're not going to be a bottom dweller anymore, it shows that there's an actual commitment to improving the roster. And I think CJ is an awesome choice for that team. It also gives him a fresh start where he could be the de facto point guard or the lead guard on that team. And in terms of the Portland Trailblazers, I think it's a win-win in two ways. They clear a lot of salary room for Dame for pieces around Dame again. And if Dame chooses to walk out, they are in the front seat of a rebuild. Actually, in a very, it seems more likely than the latter, but Dame hasn't requested a trade yet, so I'm expecting them to improve the roster in the offseason somehow.
Yeah, they put themselves in the forefront of the lottery, which I think is good. If you're going to be a mediocre team, you might as well just be bad. That's the way I've always thought of it. They add a Pelicans protected pick, which will fall. The Blazers will get if it's between 5 and 14. So they're only getting that if it's a lottery pick, which I think it very well could be, especially with no sign of Zion Williamson returning anytime soon. So you have your first round pick, you have the Pelicans first round pick. That's two pretty good assets to try to, say, hey, we can either trade those for a, star player, or we can hopefully win this lottery and then say, hey, we have, the next great NBA player to pair with Dame. I know the timetables don't really work with Dame in his 30s, but that to me is your best bet, because this whole, hey, we're going to go free agent hunting and go sign Beal or one of these other guys, to me doesn't make sense. They've never been a free agent destination before. Now Lillard is in his 30s. We're not sure what his commitment level is. He's coming off a lost year. Is Bradley Beal going to say, I'm going there? Is James Harden saying I'm going there? I can't see it. So to me, it's draft or bust.
Also, we don't know what shape. I mean, listen, it's Dame. He's going to come out in great shape, but we don't know what his health is going to be like when he comes back from this injury. And as you pointed out, he's not getting any younger. And those are all factors. I think if you're a free agent and you're considering going to a middle of nowhere, like respectfully, Portland, Oregon,
I agree. And just, moving forward with the Pacers now, it's really crazy to see these two teams, Portland and Indiana, and they're saying we're rebuilding, we're retooling. And look at how much Indiana got, and look how little Portland got. I mean, yes, I think Indiana had better assets to trade, but they got a first round pick and a high second round pick for LeVert. Whereas Norman Powell, who's a very similar player, maybe a better player than LeVert, got nothing. So it just goes to show, front offices are so important. And it's weird to me that the Blazers let this interim GM, Joe Cronin, kind of blow this thing up when we're not sure if he's even going to be the guy next year. So very strange.
I think him doing those sorts of moves kind of position himself for the front runner for the job. So that's probably what he's doing.
If they work out.
And
but,
I think he obviously got the okay from ownership to do all these moves. And so, it must be him and the front office's the executives' philosophy is clearly on the same page here. Like it's in a weird way, they're sort of in both lanes, like where they can approach a rebuild and also build around Dame. I think we're going to probably see Dame request a trade after he gets healthy. I don't see why Dame would want to stay. His best friend on the team already is leaving,
Right. Everybody's leaving. They lost Larry Nance. They lost Powell. I got to think Nurkic is next.
Like if you leave all hoops, I wouldn't want to do it anymore. So,
Yeah. Well, if Portland fans were upset, just wait till you see Sacramento fans after they ended up trading Tyrese Haliburton, the pride of the 2020 draft. He is now gone. He's going to Indiana. I think he's going to flourish there. He and Malcolm Brogdon should be one of the best, backcourt.
Duarte also.
In a while, Duarte is there too. Brogdon can kind of help continue to.
I think he gets traded.
He's going to get traded in the summer. He's not eligible to be traded now. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic works, where Haliburton and Duarte are clearly your future backcourt. You could probably get another first round pick for Malcolm Brogdon in the summer. I would love if our Knicks went after him. I'm a big fan. And, Miles Turner now apparently is ecstatic. He can be the only front court guy there. He can work with Tyrese Haliburton. They can do some lobs and stuff like that. So the Pacers, to me, have done a great job. I love Sabonis, but I think they did a great job, and I'm not really sure what Sacramento.
I love Sabonis for different reasons than the Kings do, though. Your fantasy king.
I mean, he is a great fantasy player. He is a great rebounder. He's a great scorer. He could pass. He doesn't play much defense, and I think that makes a lot of sense in Sacramento.
So I guess the big question now is, does Fox get traded?
No, he doesn't get traded. They only have they're down to 1 point guard. They had a 3-guard lineup, and now they're down to 1.
And the one that we least expected to be moved got moved.
It's unbelievable, but yeah, it's crazy. We still have another 2 days to go in this trade deadline, but that is going to do it for us here on the All Hoops podcast. Thank you so much, and we'll be back once again if the Knicks or any of our favorite teams make a big move.